Today we're talking carbohydrates. Today I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite things, and that is carbs. Now, if you've listened to any of my other content on nutrition, whether here or on Instagram or any of my podcasts, you've heard me talk about the benefits and the importance of carbs, especially if you have endurance training or high-level training goals. And one of the most common questions that I get when it comes for carbohydrates for training is, well, how the heck do I get in enough carbs? Most people are trying to get in their carbs through sources that are often confused for carb sources that are actually very high in fat or include a lot of fat too. And this isn't to say fat isn't important or a necessary macronutrient, it is, but often we need far more carbs in our diet, or we at least have a linear relationship between carbs and activity level of what we need to support our body. So it's important to note, I'm not saying that everybody needs to go and eat themselves into a carb coma, but the more active you are, especially for endurance sports that are highly carbohydrate depleting, you're going to need a lot more carbs than you think you do. And if you go back and listen to my top 3 for active female podcast and or any of the stuff I talk about in nutrition, or get my fast and fed guide, which I'll link here below in the show notes with a discount for you, that talks about how to train to support endurance activities in an intelligent way, you will hear me talk all the time about the importance of carbohydrates and the utilization of something known as strict carbs and strict carb sources. And often I'm asked, Liz, what the heck is a strict carb source in order to increase my carbohydrate intake? So first of all, when we're thinking about our training activity and demands, we really want to make sure we're getting in enough carbs both before, during, or after our training. And I have plenty of videos showing intra-run nutrition and how I approach that. When we think about including more carb sources in our diet, whether you're tracking your macros or you're not tracking your macros, we want to think about including foods that are primarily the macronutrient of carbohydrates. We don't want things that are kind of mixed macro and have some fat in them, like often things like muffins or pastas or cheesy pastas or pastries or things like that. Again, the fats aren't bad, but often we're driving up our fat intake and calorie intake while neglecting the carbs that we actually need to support performance. And the best way to get in those carbohydrate needs, especially when we're thinking about people who are needing upwards of 300, 350, 400 grams of carbs a day, yes, that is realistic, at least for those of you who are training for bigger endurance goals or training 4, 5, 6 days a week, absolutely, you probably need more carbs than you think you do, is to get in sources that are primarily carbohydrate. And this is what this looks like, and these are some of my favorite sources and ways to do this. Now, first, you can get a variety of carbohydrate sources to get your needs. People like to shame certain types of carbs and praise other types of carbs, and I think it's important when we're thinking about being endurance athletes or highly active people who are focused on health and performance, you do want to include a lot of whole foods in your diet. So unprocessed foods, whole foods, non-refined foods, things like our fruits or our starchy, fibrous vegetables and root vegetables and or whole grain type sources, absolutely. But sometimes we have to use some of the more, the more unrefined, processed, easier to digest and consume carbohydrate sources, and they're not inherently bad because our carbohydrate demands are simply higher, or our digestion's component within that, whether that's pre-workout, immediately post-workout, or intra-workout, might not necessarily want to take in a ton of fibers or complex carbohydrates, if anything, that's going to lead to GI upset, and we need simpler things in the moment. So I want to encourage you to, yes, get nutrient density and variety in your daily meals. Don't just rely on unprocessed things. But once your carbohydrate needs and demands get high enough, sometimes we have to eat some of that other stuff that we might consider bad in order to get us what we need to recover and support our training. So here are some of my favorite sources of carbohydrates that are considered strict carbs by my terms, that are mostly carbohydrate in their macronutrient composition. They might have some fats or protein within them, that's totally fine, but they're mostly carb in what we're looking at. So first things first are going to be our bread sources. So these are English muffins. You can do bread, you can do bagels, you can do whatever else is out there. So we just happen to have English muffins at this time. We often have bagels, really simple, easy things like this. They are great vessels for more carbs, jelly, honey, and or just including them as part of your meal, whether that's with eggs or whatever else that you're eating in order to get your carb intake up. These are not going to be the whole grain ones, so they only have 1 gram of fiber. And so that is lower on the fiber end, but if you're eating this pre-workout, that's not a bad idea, because then you're getting 28 grams of carbs here in this muffin here, 150 calories, really easy to eat, light to digest, portable on the go. Similar with bagels. Bagels are awesome because bagels have like 10 grams of protein, this has 5. Some of these more classic wheat sources, because of the gluten, if you are eating gluten, have some protein in them, and so they're a great way to also sneak a little bit of protein in the diet, and with pairing it with other protein sources as well to help you also get to those needs while also getting to your carb needs. Then we have our classic pancake or waffles, your classic breakfast foods. We always make pancakes on the weekend. You could also get protein pancake mix. This is just what we happen to have. We used up all of our protein pancake mix. There's tons of different brands. Aldi has a brand, you know, Kodiak classic protein pancake mix. There's all different varieties nowadays. So you can get some protein in this, or you can just eat your classic pancake if you want and pair it with whatever else, eggs, fruit, yogurt, other sources of protein and or fats, or just getting in carbs to support your training. Same things with a Lego, my Eggo. You can buy other variations or products or brands of these things, but this is just an example of something that is a lot of carbs. You do have to be careful though with some of these more processed carbs or waffles in particular, because they do tend to have a little bit more fat. Again, fat isn't a bad thing, but if I was to eat this as a pre-workout snack, this has 6 grams of fat, so I probably wouldn't want to eat 2 servings or add peanut butter or add something a little bit more fatty to that before something like a run, because it might cause some GI distress, but this can be great for a snack. We've actually been getting waffles for like post-dinner snacks, so we need more carbs because we've been hungry, and it's kind of a sweet treat as well. Next, we have my beloved potatoes. Now, if you know me, I believe in the power of the potato. I'm a potato girly, so we have instant potatoes here. We've already eaten all of our whole potatoes and sweet potatoes. We keep these as like emergency carb stashes in our house, or take these on the go for trips. These are amazing because they're dehydrated. Some people actually make these and take them on their long runs. These instant potatoes are great to have on the go, just kind of as a backup. Of course, you can get the tried and true whole potato. I ate salted potatoes at the aid stations in my 50-miler last year, and I loved it. But just including potatoes at your meal, I mean, a baked potato with butter and salt after a long run is a fantastic way to get in electrolytes, potassium, and carbohydrates post-workout. And so potato, these Alexia fries actually are lower in fat, and they're pretty much just cut up potatoes, which you can also do yourself, toss in the air fryer, have a fun fried food, but also be getting in your carb and, you know, maybe not eating a ton of deep fried foods as well, because you know me, I'm very likely to go get some fries after a run, but I love having these around for dinners and or post-workout meals or snacks. So we believe in the power of the potato over here. Potatoes, whole potatoes, sweet potatoes. I think potatoes are actually the superfood that doesn't get the love and respect it deserves. Next, we're gonna have grains and or pastas. So I have tried and true, this is the new high protein Annie's mac and cheese. I have not tried this yet, but you guys know me. Box of mac and cheese post long run is like my tried and true specialty. So we have classic Annie's mac and cheese, and if you don't add a lot of cream and butter or milk to this, you can keep it lower in fat if you don't need fats. But if you're someone like me who's always low in fats after long run days, you can also kind of dice this up while getting in the carbs that you need from this and getting in, I mean, I'll eat a whole box of this, and this is like over 100 grams of carbs in a box if you're low. We've got cream of rice or cream of wheat. These are great options for breakfast as well. Oatmeal, this is the Peak high protein oatmeal from Kodiak. These have been a huge staple for me, but they do have 20 grams of protein in them, and oats and oatmeal as well as other cereals. My husband ate all of our cereal, so I don't have that, for example, here for you today, but cereal is like filling in the gaps of my soul with training. I eat a lot of cereal when my training is high because it's easy to digest, easy to keep around. And then we also have pastas. This is just classic wheat udon noodles, but if you're looking for more protein, I recommend things like banana or the chickpea protein pastas are great for getting in protein and carbohydrates, but any sort of pasta, noodle, rice, grain, quinoa, regular rice as well are going to be great examples of strict carb sources that you can mix into your meals and or eat as part of your training. Next, we're gonna have your classic fruit. I know everyone's nowadays is saying fruit's killing you, because fruit's always killing you, and it goes between fruit and everything else we eat. But getting in fruit in smoothies, like we keep these around for smoothies, is a great way to get in nutrients, you know, vitamins, minerals, those micronutrients that we're looking for, some fiber, you know, eating food in a less processed form across the day, and fruit in season, especially in the spring and summer when our training is high, is a great time to get all this in. So classic tried and true fruit is giving you a lot of sugar, but it's also giving you a lot of carbohydrates with a little bit more fiber and nutrients. So these are just examples of what I have around the house. But I love kind of increasing my fruit intake around training in summer as a great way to get in more carbohydrates while also kind of eating more plants and or more fiber and nutrients to support my training. Because I also don't just think about getting in carbs in alone, but I also want to get nutrients to support recovery and my health as I continue to train. Next, we have like the fill in the gap, really easy things to get in that you can eat even when your digestibility is low, you feel really full, or you have a hard time getting in enough carbs across the day. So why do I have, this is honey Dijon mustard. I'm supposed to have a jar of honey, hang on. There we go. Honey Dijon could probably work too. So we have honey. Honey is fantastic to hide and mix into everything. I love putting like just a tiny bit of peanut butter on bagels, toast, or bread or English muffins because I don't want as much fat before a workout with some honey, or jelly and honey, or honey itself on breads. You can put it in, you can put it on your waffles, on your pancakes. You can put it in your tea. You can put it in your coffee. You can kind of put honey in everything. And it's like nature's natural sugar source. You can also, you can use this. People put honey, like Honey Stinger products have honey in them as a sugar source for intra-workout nutrition. Maple syrup is similar to this as well. Using 100% pure maple syrup can be a great option for getting in just a lot of strict and straight sugars that you can ingest or add or mix in or hide into things to just get a little bit of more carbs in a secret way in your diet. That doesn't really take a lot of effort. So I kind of tend to start adding honey or putting honey on everything. And a little secret that my friend taught me is honey on eggs, or like an egg scrambled or like an egg veggie scrambled is actually really good because it adds like a sweet and savory edge to it. So honey, right? Just start carrying around a jar of honey and putting it on everything if you struggle to get in enough carbs through your training. Next are easy digestible things like our go-go squeezes or applesauce pouches. These are great for early morning workouts when you don't have enough time to eat something. You need something that's easy to digest. I take these on long runs. I also eat them as snacks. Sometimes if I find that I'm still hungry before I go to bed or I can't fall asleep because I'm hungry, usually it's a sign that I didn't eat enough carbs in response to training. And so I'll kind of shimmy my way down to the kitchen and I'll eat a couple of these. Sometimes I'll eat like a cheese stick or two with it to get some protein in if I feel like I'm super hungry. But usually if I can tell I'm low in carbs, I will get a few applesauce packets down the hatch, or I use these to fill in the gaps across the day and or as pre or intra workouts to get in some strict carbs. You can also just get jars of applesauce. And then last but not least are juices. Juice gets a really bad rap because a lot of people think it's just drinking your calories or giving yourself a big sugar spike. But when we're thinking about when we need a lot of carbohydrates, either to fill in the gaps of what we're missing in our day, after our workouts, when our muscles are sensitive and primed to take in sugar and it's not as stressful on our body or it doesn't require as much of an insulin response, intra-workout and or potentially pre-workout, juices are a great option. Again, we're not suggesting everyone just go chug a gallon of juice fasted, but mixing this in across your day. So I really like, sometimes these green juices or their smoothie juices, they have a lot of sugar in them, so people will say don't drink them. But I like these because it does give you a little bit more of potentially micronutrients that you're not getting from other things. I also drink a lot of strict regular juice sources as well. Apple juice, like grape juice, are my favorite to drink like pre-run or long run or intra-race as a way to get in some fructose and sugars within my training. But you can kind of filter these in across your day. You can put a glass of this with your breakfast and or your lunch, potentially have a glass after your workout. Getting in juice or sugary-based beverages are a great option for filling in those gaps around your training instead of things like potentially soda, which a lot of runners, including myself, especially during races, will use and do, but potentially maybe a better option in your day-to-day life to get some vitamins and minerals, usually not so much fiber. But smoothies also kind of fall into this category as well, that are easy to drink, easily digestible. They don't require as much, room in your stomach, or if you don't feel like you're ready to eat a meal, but your body needs these things, juice is a great way to fill that gap. Or if you're a little bonky, you finished a run or a workout and you're like, oh, I should have eaten more today, some juice or an applesauce packet or a swig of your honey, things that don't take a long time to digest and kind of find their way right into our bloodstream relatively quickly, are a great option as well, or just kind of filling those gaps in across the day. So there you have it, my friends. Strict carb sources. Obviously, this is not an exclusive list. There's going to be tons of examples, but think about the buckets of the categories that I gave you today: breads, grains, pastas, breakfast items, potatoes, honey, maple syrup, fruit juices, and or fruit products are going to be great ways to kind of get those carbohydrates in to help you fill the gaps. And what you need to do is essentially, when you're making your meals, think about just increasing that carb portion of your meal. The more active you are, the longer your workouts are, the more miles you're running, the more activity you're doing, the more that carb is going to need to increase and the more you're going to need per day. But don't be afraid to incorporate these across all of your meals. Balance them out with other macronutrients, your carbs and your fats. You don't need to be just eating a ton of strict carbs as your meals entirely. We do want to make sure we're getting our other needs in for our body across the day. But if you're needing to drive up that carb component and you're struggling, these are the ways that I like to do so in my own training. Again, I recommend getting my Fast and Fed guide with my I think Fed15 is the discount code, and it gets you 15% off. So the guide's like $33, I believe, which is an epic steal. It teaches you how to eat for yourself across the day and or your week, but also intra, pre, and post-workout nutrition. So you can time this and figure out how many carbs you actually need for the activity level of what you're training at. So if you enjoy this video, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next one, and leave a comment below what your favorite carbohydrate source is or anything you want to learn on a future video. And otherwise, I'll catch you guys on the next one.